The sun dipped behind the skyline of Lagos, casting a golden hue over the glass windows of the towering Solarin Towers. At the very top, in a penthouse suite perfumed with lavender and white musk, Zena Solarin stood before a full-length mirror. Her silk robe, deep crimson and trimmed with gold, flowed around her like liquid fire. Her beauty was a weapon. Flawless skin, waist-length weave, and eyes that flickered like flame in the right light. She was the face of wealth in Nigeria, the woman every tabloid admired, the heiress whose philanthropy was the stuff of legend. But behind her million-naira smile was a secret darker than the lagoon at midnight. Zena's empire wasn't built on oil, tech, or stocks. It was fed by blood. Every month her foundation held free sanitary pad drives across Lagos slums. Young, desperate girls queued for hours, grateful for her generosity. They never knew that the pads they discarded in the waste bins were carefully collected by Zena's staff, wrapped in velvet cloth, and brought to a chamber beneath her mansion. There, Zena performed rituals taught by a dead woman long ago. Each blood-stained cloth glowed briefly in the candlelight, fueling the opulent life she lived. Wealth poured in like a curse well-fed. But tonight, as she stepped out onto her rooftop balcony, sipping from a golden goblet, something felt off. A whisper in the air, a tug behind her eyes. She thought of the last batch from Makoko, the girl who had fainted but hadn't died. She had dismissed it, an anomaly, yet the feeling gnawed at her now. A survivor meant a broken cycle, and a broken cycle meant danger. Zena's perfectly painted smile twitched at the corners. She would need to fix this, fast. In the heart of Makoko, where homes floated on stilts and the air smelled of brine and smoke, Ife lay beneath a patched mosquito net, sweat glistening on her forehead. She had not slept well since the sanitary pad drive 3 weeks ago. Something had happened, something she couldn't explain. She remembered collapsing in the queue after receiving her pack, a wave of nausea and heat rushing through her body. The nurse said it was dehydration, but Ife knew better. She had felt her spirit leave her body for a moment, like someone had tried to pull her from herself and failed. Since then, strange things had begun to happen. Her dreams were haunted by crimson women with silver eyes and long fingernails. They whispered in languages she didn't understand, their voices dry as Harmattan wind. Once, she woke up to find her bedsheet soaked in blood, though her period had ended days before. And now, whenever she looked into mirrors, her reflection lagged just for a second, like something else was watching from behind the glass. Her friend Tommy told her to pray, that maybe she'd been cursed or brushed against a spirit's shadow. But Ife was tired of prayer. She wanted answers. Her grandmother had always warned her about powerful people who trafficked in blood and shadows. No rich person is clean, she used to say. Some feed on suffering. Eve had laughed then. Now the words echoed louder than ever. Why had the pretty woman in red come herself to the drive that day? Why had her smile looked so forced, so sharp? Ife clutched her chest as a cold sensation rippled through her. Deep down, she knew the truth. Someone had tried to take something from her, and she wasn't supposed to survive. Back at Solarin Towers, Zena paced her penthouse like a lioness in a cage. Her usually calm demeanor cracked with every turn. She lit a sandalwood candle, fingers trembling slightly, an unfamiliar sensation. Her rituals had never failed before. Each pad, each drop of menstrual blood was a sacred offering. The spirits of wealth, the Ajay, required it, and in return they rewarded her with influence, power, and a youth that defied time. But something had gone wrong. That girl from Makoko, the one with the frightened eyes, she was supposed to die. Zena had gone over the ritual again and again. She had used the sacred chants, the golden basin, the 7 drops of goat's blood. Everything was as the ancient priestess had taught her during those months in the ocean grove. But the last flame didn't burn right. The final chant caught in her throat. A glass had shattered in her hand just after the rite. An omen. And now the mirrors in her home whispered at night, fogging over without reason, reflecting unfamiliar shapes behind her. The Ajay were restless. One of the offerings had escaped death, and it was beginning to unbalance the contract. She turned to the tall mirror in her bedroom, an artifact gifted by a Ghanaian priest-king who died the following week. Her reflection stared back at her, but her eyes were too wide, too bright. As she reached out to touch the glass, her image smirked a moment too long after her fingers dropped. Zena recoiled. A voice hummed in her mind, not hers, not human. One lives. One resists. One must be taken by force. Zena's jaw tightened. If the girl wouldn't die naturally, then she would have to die by Zena's hand. The cycle must be restored. In Makoko, dusk turned the lagoon into a sheet of molten copper. Ife sat outside her family's wooden shack, shelling beans for dinner. Her younger siblings chased each other barefoot on the wooden planks, their laughter echoing across the water. But her mind was elsewhere. Ever since her episode at the pad drive, she'd felt a strange pull inside her, like something invisible was tethered to her soul. And lately, that pull had grown tighter, heavier, like a hand around her throat. Her mother had noticed her distraction. "You day sick?" she asked earlier, touching Eve's forehead. Ife shook her head, not wanting to explain the nightmares, the bleeding mirror, or how she sometimes woke up mid-scream. Even Tommy had grown distant after Eve confided in her. People were afraid of what they didn't understand. But Ife had made up her mind. She would find answers. She would go back to the site of the pad drive, back to where it started. Something told her that if she didn't act soon, she might never wake up again. As she stood up to gather the beans, a soft knock came at the door. Ife frowned. No one knocked in Makoko. They called out or walked in. She exchanged a glance with her mother, who stood slowly and approached the door. The knock came again, 3 gentle taps, almost polite. Ife's skin prickled. Her mother opened the door. Standing there was a tall woman in a red head wrap and expensive sunglasses. Her smile was fixed, elegant, and wrong. "Good evening," the woman said sweetly. "I'm from the Solar and Women's Foundation. May I speak with Ife?" The woman introduced herself as Madame Clara, one of Zena Solarin's top aides. She wore a flowing silk kaftan, the color of dried hibiscus, and carried a leather-bound notebook pressed tightly to her chest. Her voice was smooth, with the clipped accent of someone educated overseas. But Ife caught something else underneath. Urgency disguised as warmth. "We're checking in on the girls who attended the last pad outreach," Clara said, her eyes scanning the room like a hawk. There were some product concerns, a potential reaction, nothing serious. Ife felt her stomach drop. She said nothing, but her mother nodded gratefully. "Ah, God bless Uno," her mother said, ushering Clara to sit. She even faint that day, but she fine now. She's strong past her papa. They laughed awkwardly, but Eve kept her eyes fixed on the woman. Clara turned to her, smile tight. "And you, Aoife? Have you been feeling yourself lately?" Eve blinked. "I'm fine," she said quietly. "I see." Clara made a note in her book. "Any strange dreams, fevers, mirrors acting odd?" The room went still. "How you mean?" Eve asked. Clara's smile grew colder. "Just standard questions, dear." Ife's mother chuckled nervously. "Now I owe mirror? For here? No even get mirror for this house, Zeph." Clara stood. "Well, if anything unusual happens, don't hesitate to contact us." She handed Ife a glossy card, embossed with gold, the Solarin Foundation logo gleaming like an eye. "We're always watching out for our girls." She stepped out before Eve could reply. As the door closed behind her, Aoife stared at the card. The back was blank except for one phrase, handwritten in red ink. Night fell heavy over Makoko, and with it came a strange silence. The usual hum of voices, splashing water, and distant radios had quieted, as if the lagoon itself held its breath. Ife lay on her mat, staring at the ceiling, the Solarin card tucked under her pillow. Her mother had brushed off the visit, but Ife knew better. Clara hadn't come to check on her. She had come to confirm something, and now Eve was sure they hadn't expected her to survive. She rose quietly, careful not to wake her siblings, and stepped outside. The moon cast silver ripples across the water, and somewhere in the distance, a canoe paddled gently by. Ife walked toward the old wooden pier where she and Tommy used to sit and gossip after school. Tonight, the air smelled different, saltier, heavier. The card burned cold against her skin, even through the fabric of her wrapper. Kneeling at the edge of the pier, she dipped her fingers into the black water, hoping it would calm her. But the moment her hand touched the surface, she felt it, a jolt like electricity and ice. She yanked her hand back, heart pounding. For a second, the water rippled unnaturally, forming the faint outline of a woman's face. Eyeless, open-mouthed, hair floating like seaweed. Then it vanished. She scrambled backward, gasping. The whisper returned, same as in her dreams. "You are not theirs yet." Footsteps creaked on the planks behind her. Ife turned sharply. No one. But something had changed. She could feel it now, humming in her bones, something ancient, something watching. She was no longer just a victim. She was a threat. Back in Ikoyi, Xena stood at the center of her underground chamber, surrounded by burning incense, black candles, and red cloths soaked in dried blood. The air shimmered with heat. The ritual bowl sat empty, no flame, no offering. The last cycle had failed to complete, and the Age were displeased. Whispers slithered through the chamber like snakes, curling around her ears with disdain. "Your offering still walks," one spirit hissed. "Your wealth grows thin," another warned. Xena raised her chin. "I am correcting it." The flames sputtered, dimmed, then roared back. The spirits were not easily appeased. Their gifts came with hunger, and the hunger must be fed. But this girl, this Ife, was different. She had touched the threshold of death and returned. That meant one thing. The blood had awakened something dormant in her. Perhaps even a rival spirit. Xena poured palm wine over the altar, chanting softly in Yoruba. Then she dipped her fingers into the dried blood of another girl and drew a sigil on the wall. Her eyes flickered white. "Find her," she commanded the spirits. "Drain her." The wall rippled like water, and the sigil flared crimson. Somewhere, a crow screamed in the dark. Xena opened her eyes and smiled. The hunt had begun. Ife woke the next morning to find her left arm aching. When she pushed up her sleeve, she gasped. A faint blood-colored mark had appeared on her inner forearm, 3 curved lines forming a spiral. It hadn't been there before. She scrubbed at it, but it didn't fade. Panic rose in her throat. Had she been cursed? Branded? The dreams, the whispering water, the woman in red, everything was connected. The mark pulsed like a heartbeat beneath her skin. Tommy arrived shortly after, frowning at her friend's pale face. "You look like you see ghost." "I think something bad is coming," Eve whispered. She showed Tommy the mark. Tommy's eyes widened. "That's not ordinary. My grandmother told me of this. It's called the Aje's Kiss. It marks the ones they want to take." Eve's heart pounded. "What does it mean?" "It means they're not done with you. But if you survive it again, you become something else." The word struck like thunder, something else. Was that why she had lived? Was she meant to die or transform? Suddenly, the windows of the shack rattled as if caught in a sudden wind. The bowl of water near the stove turned murky red. Ife stood slowly, the mark burning. Whatever this was, it was only just beginning. That night Aoife returned to the pier alone, drawn by an invisible pull. The wind was still, but the water churned softly, as though breathing. She carried a plastic mirror in her hand, unsure why. Some instinct told her she'd need it. Kneeling once again, she whispered, "Who are you?" The water stilled. Then slowly the same face rose, more clearly this time. A woman, dark-skinned and regal, adorned in ancient beads and shells, stared at her through the lagoon. Her lips did not move, but her voice rang in Aoife's mind. "They took from me, now they take from you." Aoife trembled. "Who?" "The one in red, the one who wears wealth like skin. Xena. She stole blood to feed her throne. But one drop resisted, that drop is you." The spirit extended a spectral hand, brushing Aoife's forehead. "You are the key to ending her." The image dissolved. Aoife fell back, heart racing. The mirror in her hand cracked. The choice was clear now. She could run, or she could fight. Xena sat in her candlelit study, eyes closed as visions poured through her. She saw Aoife by the water, saw the spirit touch her, felt the connection snap like a broken chain. "She's awakened," Clara said from the doorway, worry in her voice. Xena's eyes opened, glowing faintly. "She is no longer prey. She is becoming a vessel. Should we kill her?" Xena shook her head. "Not yet. If we strike too early, we might awaken the rest. We must draw her in. And if she refuses?" Xena smiled, teeth glinting like ivory. "Then we offer her something she can't ignore. Fear." Far across the city, Eve sat in silence, staring at the broken mirror in her lap. She didn't know how to fight a billionaire with blood-fed spirits and ancient powers. But she knew one thing. She wouldn't be hunted anymore. She would become the hunter.